Hello, it's Tina here, and welcome to the session. Today, we're going to be using a model to show the importance of using careful and appropriate communication in how to express the tone of voice and the ethos behind the Stonewater brand in our spoken and written communications. Back in the 1960s, Professor Albert Mehrabian's pioneering research showed that the meaning and impact of our communication is conveyed by our words, our voice tone, and our body language. He came up with a formula which is now widely known as the Mehrabian communication model. And here's what he found. 7% of the meaning is in the words that are spoken. 38% of the meaning is in the voice tone, i.e. the way we say those words, leaving 55% of the meaning through the interpretation of our body language, and in particular, our facial expression. Now, it's worth saying that his study specifically related to when there was an expression of feelings or attitudes in face-to-face communication. So what's the key message we can take away from this? Well, firstly, it's not just words. A lot of our communication comes through non-verbal signals. Secondly, without seeing the body language and hearing the voice tone, it's easier to misunderstand the words. And finally, when we are unsure about what the words mean, we're going to pay more attention to the non-verbal signals. So you might be sitting there thinking, what's this got to do with the way we all communicate at Stonewater today? Our working environment and the methods of communication by which we engage with our customers and colleagues has been transformed through the use of technology. Now, by simply using your laptop and mobile phone, you can remotely access all of the information you need to provide the services and communication to your customers and colleagues. Yet, whilst technology might have made it easier for us to communicate from anywhere at any time, has it necessarily made our communication more effective? Well, I would say not. In fact, if anything, I would say that there's more room for misunderstanding now than ever. And that's why we all need to take more care in how we convey the meaning in our messaging. So getting back to Mehrabian's research, there are clear implications from his findings that we can incorporate into the way we communicate and deliver the customer promise. Have you ever wondered where the expressions, actions speak louder than words, and it's not what you say, it's the way that you say it, come from? Well, here you have it. When words don't match facial or vocal expression, people will believe what they see and the tone that's implied, not the actual words themselves. Now, for those of you that have a role in Stonewater that still requires you to have face-to-face or in-person conversations, then the findings here emphasize the need to be clear and consistent in your intent and meaning through all three elements. However, you may have noticed that it's much harder to consciously control your voice tone and body language than your words. This is especially true when we're under pressure or where we're having an off day. When we're not paying adequate attention, we may inadvertently leak the truth about how we're really feeling about the situation or the person, and that then becomes a distraction to the message being understood. So where does video conferencing fit into the picture? Whilst I'm sure it's transformed the way you and your colleagues are now having meetings, the visual clues are not as reliable as genuine face-to-face communication. For example, during a meeting, how many of you use two screens or have to put your head down to write notes? Inconsistent eye contact and looking down could be misinterpreted as you being distracted and disengaged from listening to the person who's speaking. So given that most of you are working remotely from home, what's the significance of this model when we look at written and telephone communication? Well, perhaps the best way of transferring Mehrabian's findings to modern mobile phones and written communications, such as email, instant messaging, and social media, is simply to say that without the opportunity for visual signs, there's likely to be even more potential for inferred meanings and misunderstanding. So let's take telephone communication. The voice tone now becomes the dominant element in conveying the attitude and meaning to the words that we say. However, without any visual clues to fill in the gaps and complete the picture, it's really easy to misinterpret the feeling behind the intent of the caller and confuse the voice tone meaning for another. Let's use the simple phrase, "thanks very much," as an example. So if I say the same phrase expressing different feelings and emotions, what do you notice? Thanks very much. Do you believe me? Thanks very much. Now do you believe me? Thanks very much. Do I feel thanked? Thanks very much. Oh, what have I done wrong? It's not the words you're hearing. It's the emotion conveyed in the tone that gives you that meaning. There's no question about it. The phone is an efficient and effective communication tool for sharing facts and information and connecting with others. However, we really need to take extra care to ensure we're using a clear and consistent tone in conveying our mood and our meaning, especially when we're talking about sensitive or emotional topics or issues. So where does that leave us with written communication? Once we remove two elements around the voice tone and the body language, the human connection is lost and all we have is our words. Email and instant messaging are now the dominant methods by which we communicate with our customers and our colleagues. And whilst these have totally transformed the speed and the amount of information we can share, without seeing and hearing non-verbals, it's easier to misunderstand those words. And this is why quick, reduced emails or messages can so often result in confusion or cause offence. So how do we convey positive emotions and strike the right tone in our written communication? Well, it all comes down to choosing the right words. Words are your most powerful tool at Stonewater. The words you use and how you use them can help or hinder your attempts to deliver on the customer promise. The Stonewater Tone of Voice guidelines encourage the use of more engaging and powerful language in your everyday communication with customers. Every communication gives you an opportunity to really highlight the personality and the uniqueness behind the Stonewater brand. It's about bringing to life the values through how you behave, how you speak, and how you write at every touch point along the service chain. Now, living the Stonewater brand means thinking about the following principles every time you communicate. The first thing is, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Think about who'll be reading or hearing your words and choose them carefully to suit the audience. Keep it simple. Avoid any unnecessary long words and avoid using confusing jargon. Less is more. Avoid waffling. Make it easy for people to understand your message by keeping your communication clear and concise. And when customers and colleagues were asked to give feedback on what they saw as the personality and the approach behind the Stonewater brand, 4 key themes emerged: that it was positive, it was engaging, authentic, and approachable. And this is why there needs to be consistency in the tone of voice behind everybody's communication at Stonewater. It needs to be true to the brand and feel human rather than corporate. So here's how we bring these themes to life through your words and your writing styles. We need to show that we're a dynamic and positive organisation. You can see here some of the words and writing styles to present Stonewater in a positive way. Another way to show positivity is to ensure you use confident, positive words and phrases such as we will, we can, and we do. Also, say your words with conviction. Avoid what I call wishy-washy tentative words such as possibly, maybe, hopefully. These are the words that can really diminish your credibility, professionalism, and passion. Here, we're saying that your communications need to be interesting, encouraging, and thought-provoking. You must take care not to appear patronising, unrealistic, or arrogant. And again, you can see here some of the words and writing styles that you can use to portray Stonewater in an engaging way. Another way to appear engaging is to be more conversational in your approach rather than formal, which can often come across as cold and distant. For example, instead of saying, "Further information about Right to Buy is available to download from our website," reframe it by saying, "You can find out more about Right to Buy by visiting our website at www. What we're saying here is your communications need to be believable, honest, and true to who you are and never appear misleading or vague. Again, these are some of the words and writing styles that you can use to demonstrate authenticity at Stonewater. Other ways might include being sure to avoid making sweeping statements or generalizations that can't be backed up. It's also about making sure you avoid any unnecessary jargon and being sure to spell out any meaning or any abbreviations that you regularly use. For example, raising a task might mean something to you, but not to the customer. Being approachable is about showing up as honest, warm, accessible, and friendly, while still acting in a professional way. These are some of the words and writing styles that show Stonewater as being approachable. Other ways that we can demonstrate approachability include building rapport by asking questions and using phrases that really encourage a response. For example, "Tell me more about." Create a sense of conversation by using personal pronouns such as you, your, we, our, or ours. For example, notice how much friendlier it sounds when you say, "Here's the brochure you asked for. It tells you all about supported housing services we offer," compared to, "As per your request, please find a brochure attached that describes our supported housing offer." So in summary, here are a few things to take away and reflect on from this session. Every time you communicate with your customers and colleagues at Stonewater, it's an opportunity to make the organisation better and strengthen your relationships. Remember, at the other end of every communication is a human being. Using the right mode and the right tone in your communications not only strengthens the Stonewater brand, it helps develop those important human connections. And whilst we live and work in an increasingly remote online world, it's all too easy to default to using email as our main means of communication. Email has its place and purpose for sure. However, as Mehrabian pointed out, it's much harder to convey an emotional message and gauge the impact and response from others through the words alone. So going forward, in what situations do you think you could improve your communications by using the phone rather than emailing? We've also learned that the secret to effective communication is knowing which communication channel to use in the right place and at the right time and in the right way. And that's why the Stonewater Tone of Voice Guidelines can help you bring to life your passionate approach to delivering the customer promise. You'll find more detailed information about the Tone of Voice Guidelines later on as you go through this module. Thanks everyone, and see you again soon.